Hi everyone, this is Sarah Russell, and today we are going to talk about client-centered listening. So I'm really excited about this topic because it is one of my very favorite topics to talk about in the nutritional therapy world. So my practice is client-centered, and today I'm going to talk about what that means and why I do it and kind of how I implement a client-centered approach. So my nutritional therapy practice is centered around complex health cases, and what that means is that the client is at the center of our work. The client is the foremost expert on their experience, their history, their family history, their current physical and emotional signs and symptoms, and is the the only person who has full access to their intuition. So these are all really important assets to me as a practitioner. I consider my clients to be incredibly important resources in their care. So when I work in a client-centered framework, that looks like me supporting the client with my knowledge, my experience, and my objectivity, complementing the client's incredible knowledge of, and their exclusive insider's knowledge of their intuition, their experience, and their history. So their subjectivity, their intuition, my objectivity, and my intuition together cross-pollinate to really catalyze a healing process within a relationship where listening is central. So what does that look like? Taking a history is really important. So a lot of the time in allopathic healthcare, there isn't time or space, and I'm not critiquing the allopathic model of healthcare. I'm just saying that the work that I do as a nutritional therapy practitioner, where we really expand the time and space that are given to talking about history, to talking about current signs and symptoms, to talking about goals for future health and wellness. That time and space really are, the key to that is listening. So the client is speaking, I'm listening. Of course, listening extends beyond the spoken word into the intake materials that are written by the client and then read by me. There are, because my practice is individualized to the client's needs and situation, my history taking process might look a little bit different with different people. So typically, I have my clients fill out forms online, and I read those before we have our session. I come prepared with notes, and then on the basis of the conversation that we have during the intake session, I adjust those notes and expand on them, and then send them to the client. There are other situations. I do have a few client situations where we've actually done an in-person session where I'm asking them the questions and I'm typing their responses instead of having them fill out the forms. For whatever reason, there are some clients where the history-taking process works better if I'm the person transcribing and they're just talking and I'm literally listening from the beginning to the spoken word. Although typically that's not the structure that, typically it's a blend, like I said, of them writing, me reading, and then them speaking and me listening. And of course, I also write and speak, but a lot of the information is given to me by the client. So that's really important. Why does history matter? We are very much influenced by our past history and our current physical and emotional, subjective and objective experience. So all those things are very relevant to a person's nutritional status. I can't know enough about a client just by looking at what they're currently eating. I need a lot more information than that. So listening is incredibly important, and the client's history is the basis for the history taking experience, where I, as the practitioner, am asking questions in both written and verbal format, and the client is giving me answers and providing information, and I'm building on that by asking additional clarification questions, by research, by bringing my experience to the table, knowledge, that I have accumulated from courses, from reading scientific articles, anatomy and physiology textbooks, and objective information of that nature. So how do you take a client-centered history? There are many ways to do that, and to some extent, like I said earlier, the best way to interact with a client is modifying your system as needed. So you have a general system that you use, and then you modify that as needed if and when you have specific clients who need modifications. So you want to be proactive, and sometimes you'll notice needs that even before your client has articulated them. Sometimes you won't. Sometimes it will be your client who will voice a need, and that's fine too. You don't have to feel like you have to anticipate everything, or guess, or be somehow kind of prophetic in your understanding of things before they're even articulated. Sometimes you will understand before the client articulates a need. Sometimes the client will be the first person to articulate a need, and sometimes you'll move forward with the client, and by trial and error, you'll both discover, or one of you will articulate, let's try X or Y or Z, and then you'll try something new. One of the things that I have implemented over the past year that I didn't do in the first years of my practice is to do an additional, to provide an additional layer in my history taking process, where the client not only fills out the intake paperwork that gives me general information of on their health history, on their kind of geographic context and occupation, and broad lifestyle issues and goals and risk factors like smoke exposure and things like that. But I also have added an additional history taking tool, which is having clients write out a timeline of their life, like starting from what they know of their parents' history before conception. This is incredibly powerful because you'll get details that just don't come through on an intake form, because you get additional contextual information that is not directly related to what a health history intake is looking for. Really powerful. It will help you fill in a lot of blanks and make a lot of connections. The other, of course, history is just the beginning. Then from history you build on to you build on from history to looking at the person's current signs and symptoms. So looking at the picture of the physical and emotional experiences that they're having. Some of those are objective signs, like, for example, white spots on the fingernails, or skin rashes, things like that, hair loss. Other are subjective, so symptoms. Those are things that that your client feels, and they can report them, but you can't see them. And then, of course, additional information that about a client's current history, which is objective, consists of lab results, which of course you always have to look at in context. They're not, they're objective in the sense that, that they are things that are quantified and measured, but they aren't always straightforward. So they do need to be looked at in context of the history, and even details like when you look at a blood glucose test, you do need to know if the person was fasting. If you're looking at hormone tests, you want to know what time of day that was taken, and if it's a woman who is premenopausal, you want to know where she was at in her cycle. Those are all very relevant questions. Building onto history, so the past, we have the present picture of subjective and objective health history, health experiences, and then building on that, we integrate that with the vision for future change. So what are the objectives that the client has for the future, short term, long term? So a client can come to with digestive distress, with the objective of short term symptom control and long term identification and resolution of the underlying cause. That's an example. Same thing. With someone who comes to you with migraine. In the short term, they may want just to control the symptom, and in the long term, they want to understand and eradicate the root cause so that they're not continuing to experience that on a recurring basis. Not all objectives are going to be realistic. So, and we don't always know what the outcome will be. So what really matters is helping a client understand that there isn't a guarantee of outcome based on, you can take the best action and you may not get the desired results. Sometimes a client might have several different health concerns, but some of them will be easier to unpack than others. It's really hard to even assess how long it's going to take for to address and resolve certain problems. It's so interesting just even watching how there isn't a direct correlation between how grave a person's symptoms are and how much work and how long the work is going to need to be done in order to bring resolution. Sometimes people with terrible health struggles are able to find quick resolution with just a few action steps, and sometimes not. So I have worked with multiple family members where, even say the person with the most grave health concern got full resolution in a relatively short time period, and another member with, something that on the surface looked less serious just struggled more to address and resolve. So we can't know in advance how long it's going to take and how far you're going to get in a process. I really think that connected to the concept of a client-centered history is really understanding that the relationship that happens in listening. So you as a practitioner, when you listen to your client, or you when you are on the client side of the table, because nobody is just a practitioner. All practitioners are also clients. So as practitioners, we are in this privileged place of being both the client when in our own health journeys and the practitioner in the health journeys of others. So there is an incredible level of reciprocity in our experience. So we get to be both on the history giving side and the history taking side. We get to be objective, with our clients, and we get to be subjective with ourselves. And we need an objective practitioner helping us mediate our subjective experience. The reciprocity of the client-practitioner relationship is itself part of the healing process. It is part of the healing journey. Healing doesn't mean the absence of symptoms. It's much more complex than that. Health is really about wholeness, and wholeness isn't about the absence of problems. It is really about the process, it's about the journey, and it's about progress, as opposed to, you know, flipping a switch and everything's perfect. That is not, luckily, not how our human experience works. I really, you know, I wanted to keep this really kind of short and concise. But if anybody has any questions, I would love for those to be brought up, and I'm happy to answer them. I'll give it a moment. And otherwise, I think that we'll wrap up pretty soon. Okay, it looks like no questions. So hopefully that means that I was clear. I would love feedback. You know, if anything wasn't clear, that would be great to know too. Let's see. Thank you. You're very welcome. I think that it's really helpful, as you know, as a practitioner community, and even as a client practitioner community, because I do have a number of people, you know, in my circle who are both you know, clients in their own health journey, or even just exclusively clients and not a practitioner, or not yet a practitioner, or just somebody who's a client who's very, very interested in healing and has followed me because of their own healing journey without being a practitioner. So I do want to make you know, these videos are going to be speaking not just to the client, from the practitioner perspective, but also from the client perspective. And again, you know, talking about client-centered listening, it's really important for us to remember as practitioners that we are never pure practitioners. We are always also clients in our own health journeys, and that really helps us as practitioners, because it gives us the gift of empathy towards our clients, which enriches the experience of listening. So to summarize, the client brings their subjectivity, we bring our objectivity, and together we collaborate in a reciprocal experience where we look at past history, present experience, and future objectives. And the healing journey begins with the reciprocal listening and history-taking experience, and looks at all the objective and subjective details and integrates them into a framework that is deeply respectful of the person's bioindividuality. So thank you so much to everyone who is watching live and has participated and commented. I appreciate it. And also to anybody watching the recording, I want to say thank you for taking the time. And please don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions and any suggestions, even for future presentations. I would welcome those. So thank you so much, and have a wonderful rest of your day and week and